Seems fair to me. Well, if you don't know what fair is, you can't make it.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.
Thank you very much for joining us for this edition of Donnybrook. As usual, we are just stacked with topics, so let's meet the panelists and then jump right in. Wendy Wiese, the media veteran, along with Jaime Mowers, the owner and editor-in-chief of the Webster Kirkwood Times. Thanks for joining us, Jaime. Hello, Sarah Fenske from the 314 podcast, also from St. Louis Magazine, and of course, her daily newsletter. And from the St. Louis American, Alvin Reid, the unofficial spokesperson, representative ambassador of Kirkwood. And I suspect we have a Kirkwood heavy panel.
We got a lot to talk about.
All right. Except it looks like you're wearing Webster colors.
Well, it's Thanksgiving. This is the fall foliage. Everyone knows I'm truly red and white.
You might want to stay home next Turkey Day.
Yeah, it's a home game. It always usually depends on the weather.
Hey, I want to ask you about reports this week. Who reported? The Business Journal? That the $3 billion plan for Lambert, which is to really expand and improve our airport, doesn't include something that Enterprise Rental, the world's largest rental car company in our backyard, is looking for. And that would be the ability of customers at Lambert to get off the plane and walk to a rental car. Currently, customers at Lambert, those who fly, have to wait for the shuttle bus and then go 2 miles away to Budget or National or Enterprise or the others. Do you think, Alvin, that we should go back to the drawing board and make sure that we're kind of up to snuff with most airports and allow the passengers to walk to the rental car?
We should not go back because this plan has been out there at least 5 years. The retiring director, Rhonda, I'll just call her Rhonda, I'm the broogie. No, she made sure that all media people saw it and invited you to meetings or came to your office like they did at the St. Louis American. This plan has been out there a long time. I'm sorry that you're just now realizing this is the way it is, but this has got to wait. We have a plan. We're delivering on that plan. Let's proceed with that plan.
So last week, when you and I were squaring off about kicking the can down the road at Lambert about the retail operators and whether or not they should have any sort of allowances before or after the renovations, now kicking the can down the road is okay.
Well,
right?
It's not, if you were going to say are we deciding how we're going to, let's say we have a plan where the vendors are going to be, and after that's put into place, somebody comes along and says, I need more space, or I need to be closer to the actual gates of the terminal or whatever.
Right.
No, I would say no to that, so I'm saying no to this.
Okay.
I understand that there's major players in the St. Louis area as far as rental cars are concerned, but I think this is where the civic responsibility comes in that the most important thing we can do right now is fix this airport.
And I understand that in Jacob's story, he pointed out that Rhonda Hamnebrugge said that this is terminal only. That this plan has to do with terminal only, and everything else can, that can wait. I feel like if you are renovating your home, this is sort of like not changing the light bulbs or not getting different light fixtures. You're already completely changing and renovating your home. I think it's a waste of incredible goodwill on the part of Enterprise. Let's keep Enterprise happy. We have so few people to keep happy these days. Let's keep
Where
Enterprise.
was Enterprise at the last 5 years?
They said, according to the story, they have made this clear. They just thought it was going to be taken care of, and it wasn't, because it wasn't seen as term. I don't know where the disconnect came from.
Yeah, I mean, they have a seat at the table. Aren't they even on the airport commission? I was surprised that this was coming up this late in the game, because I am very sympathetic to Alvin's point of view here. It's like this project has been talked about, and what, we're going to go back to the drawing board when we're just getting ready to go? It's very frustrating. I hadn't even realized it's been so long since I've been willing to rent a car. I hate doing it so much because you have to get on this shuttle. And so they make a good point. It is a terrible part of the travel
No, that's true.
experience.
And frequent passengers know the airports that allow you to walk straight to your rental car, like Salt Lake City. You can get off at the gate and then just go straight to your rental car. You don't even have to see an agent or anything. It's very easy. That's the way most airports
No,
do
I don't
it
think
now.
most airports
Yeah.
are like
I
that.
don't either.
Well, according to the report,
There's
they are.
a giant number that.
Well, I mean, you could get off the plane and walk to your car in Little Rock or we're bigger than that. So
No.
I think of major airports. I just can't remember that many where I just go right to the rental
I believe that was
car.
in the reporting there by Jacob Kern of the Business
He
Journal.
said most.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
We and I was intrigued by our class, our because we're not a mega airport, we are a large airport.
Yeah.
So
Right.
yeah.
Right.
How do you feel, Jaime?
So I'm more with Wendy on this. I know the plan has been out for a long time, but I just really think that that our airport should make it a priority, because I know when people visit and have to rent a car, even I have a couple of friends who are flight attendants who were, commuting and all of that stuff, and they were talking about the parking and the rental cars being such a nightmare that they wanted to actually change their base because it was so bad. And they're very familiar with a lot of airports. So I understand, but I hope that our airport does make this a priority, hopefully soon.
Wendy, let me ask you about St. Louis County, which announced this week that the services in the county are going to be moving to St. Anne. That's St. Louis County Services, not the county council. That'll go to the police department in Clayton. The jail is going to remain in Clayton. But the county executive will go to Northwest Plaza, where already we have human services as well as elections. Any problems with that?
I think once upon a time I would have had a problem with it, but I do not have a problem with it because they're looking at $100 million in terms of renovations to the current county government center. $100 million. This is on top of an $80+ million budget shortfall. So if this makes things easier for the county, if they are thinking this far outside the box, Sam Page, Doug Moore, the county council, I am all for it.
Okay. Steve Stinger is out there sitting someplace thinking, I told you.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Steve Stinger Memorial County Center. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. It just made too much sense, to tell you the truth. And, those county buildings and where it's been for so long, and they're talking about how much, like you say, how much it costs to fix, but also, will it ever be fixed? It's kind of, so I think that would be the prudent thing to do. And you made a good point that I hadn't thought of, but I feel the exact same way. For some reason, this would have really, really bothered me in the past, and now it just doesn't. I think
To
bravo.
me, it makes me kind of sad. I feel like we've gone from a situation where you used to go to downtowns and deal with things, and now it's just a series of strip malls because people want easy parking. They don't want to have to pay a parking meter. They'd rather go to St. Anne, even if it's farther than their house, than to be in the middle of downtown Clayton or to be in the middle of downtown St. Louis. And I think it's something is lost when we're just going to these very car-centric type developments. I also have to wonder about public transit. Is it as good getting to St. Anne? This is not.
The Metrolink does go right by the St. Louis County government building, and you see every day the workers going back and forth, and so some of those workers are going to have to buy automobiles. Or
That
take
seems
Lyft
like
or
a
Uber.
huge problem to me. If that's something where the county workers are being inconvenienced and there used to be an easy solution and there isn't.
Yes. Yeah, that, like you said, that's going to have to be figured out. And on the flip side of what you're saying, I also think there are some people who will be further out, obviously, from the St. Anne location, who just don't want to drive that far. I mean, really, because there's also a core group of St. Louisans who, if it's like more than 10 or 15 minutes, they're like, I'm not going. I'm just not going. I mean, they'll have to, but.
Well, you only go once a year, right?
But
I am going to stick up a little bit for Chipotle and Starbucks and CJ Muggs. I think that some of these little eateries around downtown Clayton may suffer if 300 to 500 employees are moving out.
I think this is very bad for Clayton. Like this is very bad. Like that downtown, the last thing it needs is less vitality. Like it already feels like tumbleweeds blowing through.
I think if you took the county government center out of Clayton, that opens up Clayton to be like a Kirkwood or these places that are transforming their downtowns and making them little kind of like entertainment and restaurant centers.
Maybe so. Someone was quoted, maybe a professor at WashU, that it's the most valuable piece of property in the region. I don't know. You're right next to the jail. Who wants to build luxury condos next to the jail?
I think ultimately the jail and everything will move. I think this is the first step on all of this moving. I don't think the jail and the judicial center will be there forever either. I guess we should point that out.
But we can't scream about the budget shortfalls. And then, when they do come up with an idea that is sound, maybe not terribly popular or perfect in every way, we squawk about it.
Sarah Fenske, let me ask you about money in the city. We had a pandemic, COVID pandemic in this country, and then 4 years ago, money was sent to municipalities and counties to help deal with all the problems associated with the pandemic. And St. Louis City got 4 years ago $490 million. And the reports this week are that just about half of it has been spent. With 1 year to go, there's a deadline, another year. Isn't it kind of crazy that government officials are having trouble spending millions of dollars when, in fact, a city like St. Louis has huge problems with water mains and lead abatement and more?
Yeah, I get that argument. I get why this was an eye-catching story. I will say they have all of it allocated. They had to say a year ago where each penny was going to go. And it is all spent. It just is not actually spent yet. But I will say, I think this is what happens when you have a situation where people are terrified that things are going to go in the wrong direction and then their name is going to be in the newspaper. And I'm speaking in part of the program that Mayor Tashara Jones had to try to revitalize North St. Louis. And they had these preliminary awards where they're like, we're thinking about giving, of this $37 million, we'll give $1 million here, we'll give $2 million there. And the Post-Dispatch did a very good story pointing out that some of these things were going to non-existent businesses. And then they did something like 5 or 6 more stories. And I can't tell you how many people I run into who are absolutely convinced that money went out the door. And all sorts of people had their hand in the till. None of that money ever went out. But it was this giant black eye. It may have cost Tashara Jones the election. It made everyone very paranoid. Everyone wanted to sign off on things and make sure they weren't letting money go out that shouldn't have gone out. Not the worst impulse to have people looking that carefully. Now they're going to have to speed up.
Well, like with the Ram settlement money, we were talking about, a couple months ago.
Different bucket of money.
Different bucket of money. Same thing. Spend the money now. You've worn me out. I'm done. Just spend the money. You have the money, spend it.
Will you not complain if there's a little fraud? You'll be like, that's okay. I wanted to get that money.
No fraud. No fraud.
No, I'm saying, like,
no
wait.
fraud.
They'll, when this money goes out, okay, when it go with every I dotted, every T crossed, somebody's going to find something about it. Somebody's going to take care of the rent-a-car company at the airport. Same kind of situation where it'll be, something will come along where like, oh no, that's not right, blah, blah, blah. Spend the money.
But this takes,
get it out.
We're not considering, it is not a very sexy thing to talk about, but the administrative level of distributing these funds is paramount, and we don't have the people. The fact that the alderman had to revisit the stipulation that had something to do with, I'm sorry, forgive me, I'm having an elderly moment. But one thing was found to be something that you couldn't do it, and so it had to go back to the alderman, the board of aldermen, and so you had all of these just snags that would have probably been alleviated if you had the right people.
You're talking about why reinvent the wheel? Why not just supplement the programs that we know will work, like new sidewalks, new roads, new water mains, which are all
Well,
broken, lead abatement, and simple things that we are good at.
That's not going to solve the problem. I mean, we talk about not having enough people. We don't have enough road people, so they have all these projects that are kind of like backed up, and it's like you can only work so fast, and they got to spend all the money by this deadline. So they had to invest in some things where it was like, okay, we're creating a new program.
Do you hear about data centers like being behind the times? They're not getting built because there's no labor? I don't think so.
Did they have to follow the same rules government follows where you have to get 3 bids and you have to do competitive bidding? They don't.
Whose problem is that they're getting the 3 bids and all that? Let's get
that's
the
the
money
law.
out there. I haven't heard that other cities have had problems with this. I haven't heard that cities
I
have
would
trouble
not
spending
have.
money.
I would not have a problem spending $230 million if I was the mayor.
I think you're right.
I'm not kidding. I'd say, like, okay, and once the haggling went along too far, I'd say, like, this will just be Reid's folly or Reid save St. Louis,
But when
because
Rasheen-
the dough would
But
be
what
going.
if you
When
don't have
Rasheen
the
Aldridge-
people to implement, like
When
we're
Rasheen
talking-
Aldridge says we've got to do something about this bottleneck, then you've got to
I'm
do
not-
something. It is a real bottleneck.
I'd take briefcases of money to the people and tell them, fill these potholes, fix these streets. We're being simple. We're being to the point. We're getting the job done.
Okay.
Within a year, we're in danger of losing this money.
Speaking of data centers, Wendy, Festus is considering a multi-billion-dollar data center in some area that's currently owned by 3 or 4 landowners who have a lot of property. And it's about 30 miles south of St. Louis, not too far from the Mississippi River. So they got a lot of water. If you were in Festus, would you approve this project?
I think I would, and I think we love to tell other municipalities how to operate, and I just don't think we can do that. If Festus appears to be as gung-ho as they are, it even appeared from the story that St. Charles County might revisit the idea of a data center. So if Festus is all in and okay with it, then let's get behind them.
I could not argue with this more.
I know that.
I think
know
this is
that.
something where, for once, can we just look at something this big regionally?
we already have them.
The East-West Gateway Council of Governments is trying to provide some advice on this, and I would love to see them take an even more proactive role, because this goes down to our water supply, which is the thing that if St. Louis has any future as like a big growing city, it's going to be because we have this amazing water supply. It goes down to our utility rates. If Festus is like, yeah, hey, come in, build this giant data center, that could jack up the utility rates across the state for all of us. We all need to be thinking about these things, not just, oh, let's let Festus have this because they want to do it.
But why weren't we thinking about it with the existing 5 or 6 data centers? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's like
no, we should have. I mean,
the barn door is open, the animals are down the path, and now we're saying no more.
No, because it's exploding now because artificial intelligence requires a gargantuan amount of electricity.
Right.
And so these companies, which are basically fueling, Meta and Google and the most profitable companies in the history of the world, it seems, they're going to places that have low electricity rates like Missouri and lots of water. So we've got a target right now on us. And there's going to be a lot of promises made. Oh, you'll get tax revenue. But they don't mention, well, Memphis complains about the new pollution because they use gas generators down there. And the electric rates will go up because there will be, as Sarah says, a pressure on the grid. So the Amerons of the world are going to share the cost among everybody. I would say, hey, let's slow down and let's see what you have to give. What are you going to do? Are you going to be responsible, Meta, for all increases in electric rates for the state?
I love this. And if we could come in as a region and say, we're talking with one unified voice. You want to build a giant data center in St. Louis beyond the couple we already just have. Here's what you're going to do for the region, and talk about it that way and think about what actually makes sense.
They'll go somewhere else.
Great. I'm happy if they go somewhere else. Reading about how this is played out in Memphis, I don't want it here.
I was all for putting it in Festus, and y'all got to change my mind.
I know.
I'm like, oh, poor Festus. No, I'm going down. Look, if Festus wants a data center, Festus can have a data center, and we'll just have to keep an eye on the electric rates and all that.
Keep an eye on them, just like we're doing in
Well,
Kirkwood.
but yeah.
We'll get to that.
We'll get
Okay.
to that.
Hey,
but okay.
well, why don't we
I'm
go to
sorry.
that? We'll go to that right now.
All right.
What about those Kirkwood electric rates? They're going up 14%, Jaime. And in fact, that's higher than any other area in the state right now. Kirkwood is kind of weird because it has its own utility, but there have been some financial problems recently. and so the costs have been passed on to the ratepayers. Is it time for Kirkwood to say, hey, let's merge with Ameren, let Ameren take care of this?
So I would say no. Number one, because I feel Alvin can probably speak better to this, but I do feel like Kirkwood and Webster, for that matter, they like local control. They like to, we like to keep things close to the vest. I also think that Kirkwood keeping its own electric department has been historically very advantageous, and rates have been lower. This is a recent thing. I know, obviously, rate increases never go well wherever they are, whenever they are. Kirkwood has to work to replenish the reserves now. I don't see this being a forever thing. I do think hopefully eventually the rates in Kirkwood will come back down, and that will be, like I said, and things will balance out. I don't think Kirkwood's personally ready to say, yes, let's go to Ameren. I think they've always kind of liked having local control, but that's just my thought.
All right, my fear is this, that the rate will never come back down. I think once it's set where it is now, it's just forever going to be there, because who knows, we might build a data center in Kirkwood.
I don't think that,
and I don't want, I like having a Kirkwood Electric department, having our own, and purchasing the electricity from Ameren. Because for one thing, and this actually happened, a tree limb came down and took out the line to our house. It was fixed literally within hours, as opposed to days. And I think that's one of the problems that you might run into if we didn't have our own. This crisis is not really about electricity. This crisis is about leadership. And I think that the people of Kirkwood have been let down by the existing, city council and the mayor, in that all of a sudden no one knew that this surplus was gone, and within weeks it's been voted upon that that's going to be a 14% rise. 14% is inconvenient to some, doesn't mean anything to others in Kirkwood, but it means a lot to seniors. It means a lot to people that are quite frankly, do not have the money to afford a 14% rate increase. This is terrible. And I just don't think it has been answered to yet by our city council.
And that's why you're wearing the Webster colors.
I'm not advocating Kirkwood.
No.
And a lot of the people involved, they know I love and respect them, but this is not good.
Final topic, let's talk about Matt Thornhill, Jaime Mowers. Matt is a judge in St. Charles, and he's been disciplined by a higher body because he was wearing an Elvis costume on the bench and playing, in a court of law, Jailhouse Rock. He's a big Elvis fan, apparently. So his punishment is kind of weird. He's going to have 6 months off, and then he comes back for 18 months, and then he has to leave. Have you ever heard of anything like that?
No. And I mean, I love night court, but this is not Judge Harry Stone's courtroom, okay? This is just not. So I don't think it was appropriate. I do think he should be punished, but I think he needs to go now. I don't understand this whole, we'll suspend him for 6 months, then he's coming back for 18 months, and then he gets to retire. What is this?
I think also with the follow-up story that the Post-Dispatch dropped today, my jaw dropped. I thought they gave this guy a sweet deal where he gets to keep his full retirement by getting to come back after his suspension.
Yes.
And I was like, I don't think I like this. But man, when I heard these latest allegations that he called the chair of the St. Charles County Republican Party to ask him his take on a case where this guy might end up being sucked into the case as a witness or even a party to the litigation, I would be shocked if this guy doesn't get disbarred. Like, that is a huge no-no. For a judge to do that, it makes you no longer believe in justice. I think they need to revoke this deal now that this has come out, if it turns out to be true, and I think they need to get him out of there immediately.
Yes.
I think there are different levels. I thought at first, okay, he's just being persecuted because he was kind of being silly in a place where you don't look for silliness, when lives are hanging in the balance. But if he had maybe stopped at some point along the line, instead of just continuing to lean into the really questionable behavior on the part of a jurist, I think he would have been all right. But for an Elvis costume on Halloween, that was where I thought it was all going. And that's, you can't throw a man off the bench for wearing.
I think so. He became Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be very serious, that job. And any sense that the judge is less than serious is not good when you bring a matter in front of him. And by the way, this has made international news. It was in the Daily Mail. It was in the Sun, both newspapers in London. The New York Post covered it, assorted newspapers around the country. Again, another clown in a position of leadership.
But you said that this is not completely unique. You said that there are other judges who personalize.
I've seen. There were photos when Kim Gardner was going through her legal problems. Mike Noble, the judge in her case, had a "Go Navy" sign on his bench, and I think that's inappropriate.
I mean, to me, that's so small potato. Sure,
unless you're from the Army.
Well, sure, but to me, this is it's so bad, and I think it speaks to Missouri has always been very proud of its judges. We have this Missouri plan where in the big counties, there's a nonpartisan way that we appoint them. I think St. Charles has grown so fast, we need to fold them into the Missouri plan and no longer do the judge election.
Yes, and I know St. Charles judges are not under that right now, but I feel like they should be held to the same standards.
But doesn't he have any grace period at all because of the overlap?
In this case, no, because like Sarah said, with the story that dropped today, he needs to be gone right now.
I agree with that. Today's, immediately. I will say this, that, okay, we're talking about judges. When I was covering the Kim Gardner was taking the governor to trial, jury, selection, that process, people were showing up with shirts that said, "I'm late because I don't want to be here." The whole courtroom decorum is gone.
Thank you, Alvin. Hey, let's go to the old mailbag and see what people had to say about last week's program. Bill made a very good comment that the Democrats would win more points by letting the ACA subsidies expire, leaving the Republicans holding the bag. Charlie then made a snide remark that Bill was only interested in getting his daughter home from Austin. That took away from the credence of his comment and was rude. Thank you to Carrie McGill of St. Albans. We also heard from Dave Ottinger, a emeritus professor of art at McKendree. I believe the suggestion of using Fontbonne University's dormitories for the homeless has merit, but so would Alexian Brothers Hospital on Broadway. It has individual rooms, kitchens, and healthcare facilities. And A. Karowski of South County wrote, "It's always great to see Joe on the panel. He provides much needed balance and common sense to the discussion." Thank you. You can write us care of 9PBS, 3655 Olive Street, St. Louis, Missouri, 63108. Those emails at donnybrook@9pbs.org. On social media, use hashtag DonnybrookSTL. Call the 9 line, 314-512-9094, and check us out on your favorite podcast source. We have the 9PBS channel on YouTube. A program is called Last Call, where we broach topics not available or no room for in the first 30 minutes. And this week we'll talk about the mayor's plea for big businesses to get more involved in downtown St. Louis. That and more. Well, we hope you all have a great Thanksgiving. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks to Jaime Mowers of the Webster Kirkwood Times for sharing the stage with us. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.